Are you sat there trying to style a large set of shelves like this? Well, you are not alone. It's one of the most difficult things, and it can feel really daunting when you've got a whole length of shelves to fill up and you don't know where to start. So that's why today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my top styling tricks for styling a large set of shelves like this, where to start, what types of items you need, and why you really don't need to worry about the process. Trust the process and it's all going to work out really well. Mistakes that people make when they're styling their shelves, which I wanted to brush over quickly to start with. Now, number one is that people try to add different things to a set of different shelves rather than working on one line to start with. Now, that's the worst way to do it because it's going to look really messy, and that is what's going to make you feel even more scared of the process because it's just not going to work like that. Our number two is not leaving enough empty white space. Just because you have a really long shelf, it doesn't mean every square inch has to be filled. In fact, it's going to look so much better with just a few well-placed items, and I'm going to share with you how to style those items and what types of things you need to create a really nice aesthetic. And lastly, a lot of people think they've failed by the time they've styled a set of shelves. They take a step back, they think it looks terrible, and they just head straight to Pinterest because they've got no idea what they're doing. Now, I'm here to tell you that most designers, especially myself, you're never going to get it right first time. That's all the beauty of shelf styling. But I will tell you that where people do go wrong is that they don't have enough items to start with. I'd always recommend having a huge selection of decor accessories to begin with, so that way you can edit and curate it as you go through your set of shelves. And of course, you're going to want to step back every so often when you're styling your shelves so you can see how it's looking, and then you can edit it from there. But I'm going to start with sharing with you how I'm going to style my set of shelves today. I've already done the top shelf, which I'll show you because I didn't want to get the ladder out today. And I'm just going to share with you how I go about styling my shelves and the process that you can follow on your own set of shelves as well. So firstly, as you can see, I've got 4 shelves and I've got a cabinet beneath it, which I'll show you in a minute. So on the top shelf, this is probably the easiest place you're going to start because you want something that is your anchor point of your shelves, and because it's so high up, you're never going to see small little items. There's no point in even bothering. So what we've got is a really large sort of urn vase. This was from Charlested Interiors. I absolutely love it because it's got a really grand and defining look to it, and you literally just need it in the center point. It's going to anchor the whole look, and as you'll see when I work down the shelf styling, I'm going to create an almost triangle, so everything works really well in harmony with each other. If you don't want to go for something really large and central like this, you could do a couple of different items, such as a large vase with a smaller vase next to it, which I'll show on the screen. So that's a really nice method as well, and you can vary some height with that as well. But for us, because our shelves are quite large, they're deep, they go back a long way, I wanted something that was grounding, and it's super effective, and it's literally so simple. You need one item, and then we can start styling the rest of the shelves, which are going to take a little bit more curation. So next I'm going to style the second shelf down, okay? And as I mentioned before, you can really go wrong very quickly if you start going and plonking things like that and like that. And when you do that, it just doesn't work, and it's going to be really, really difficult to create any sort of aesthetic form that looks really good. So whenever I style a set of shelves like this, and I've done the top shelf, I always work on one little corner first. If you work on creating one corner, it helps to anchor that point, and then you can see what is required on the other side of the shelf. So when you're picking stuff for your shelves, I always think that you need a really, really good mix of different items. I always go for some fake plants, real plants, really rustic accessories, maybe some candles, and I love rattan at the moment, so I've got some rattan trays as well that I'm going to use. But it's completely up to you and your personal style, what sort of items you want on your shelves. But what I will say is don't get lots of items from the same range because it's going to look samey and boring. You want a real mix of colours, textures and items, and that's what's going to create that visual interest that you want to spark when someone sees your shelves, and it's going to look good on Instagram as well. So firstly, I'm going to start with this gorgeous vase. It's like quite autumnal looking. I picked this up from Target when I was in the States last year, and this is going to create a really nice anchor point. It's quite chunky in size, and I'm just going to place it here. Now, I love placing things in pairs of 2, but trios work really well as well, but for me, I always find 2s look really good together. So ideally I want to place like a vase next to this, but it's got to be shorter. So varying height is going to create that visual interest, and if you have everything that's the same height, it's going to look boring and it's just not going to work. So do vary your height, vary your textures, and vary your cut colours, and just remember that you want to create something that looks really different but also it's cohesive too. Next up I've got this. This is a great little charity shop find. I really like interspersing sort of vintage accessories. This was only 50p. So this is green and it looks really good with the terracotta, so I'm just going to place that next to it, and as you can see, we've got some really nice visual height going on now. I'm really happy with this side part. So on the other side, I actually want to go for something quite simple. I'm just going to place a single glass in a dome, and I might switch that up in a minute, but I'm going to have a look, see what it looks like, and take a step back and see if I need to change it. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that at the moment. I do think it might need something else, but I'm going to go on to the set below it, and then I'm going to revert back to this one afterwards. So now it's time for me to bring some rattan and seagrass into the equation. I never bought this specifically for my shelves, and that's what I love about shelf styling. I have a lot of stuff through my house that I tend to bring and change over in my shelves, and you'll probably see that as well. You might find something that was in your bedroom that actually looks better on the shelves, and I do like to mix up my styling every so often as well. So this is quite a nice natural look. It's going to work really well with the sort of muted colour tones that I've got here, and I'm just going to pop this one on the shelf here, and it works really well with the one item that I've got here as well. Now let's talk about books. I think every shelf styling needs books of some kind, and the best thing about them is they add height. So you can stack them vertically, and they just work really well. These are a couple of deeper sort of colours. These are actually free from a charity shop. I love them, and they're different colours to what I've used here, but they have a little bit of definition. So I'm going to stack them on the shelves like this, and I'm just going to pop them on this side. Okay, so that's looking good, but it's still not that visually interesting. So I want to add some additional height to here, and I'm going to introduce black. And I always say in all my videos, black accents are amazing for any interior. They're going to bring a touch of modernity, but they're also going to define your colour scheme as well. If you've got quite a neutral colour scheme, it could feel like the colours are floating, and adding in a black accent is just going to ground it and really define your interior. Now I've got this really nice sort of, I don't know what you call these, upside down bowl, or like just ornament. Love it. This was £1 from Primark, can't really go wrong. And it's just for that aesthetic look really. I want the black, and I want some height, so it's going to look really good on top of the books. Ta-da! So I'm really looking how that shelf is looking now, so I'm just going to take it down to the last shelf that we've got, and as you'll see, we've got a hole here so we can access electronics, and also, if you don't already know, I have a Chow Chow, and his camera goes in there, so because he always sits on the sofa looking out the window. So anyway, this is our last shelf now, and we've got a cabinet beneath it, so I'm going to add some items below. Now, I love frames. I love photographs on shelf styling. I think it brings a really nice different dimension to the space, and again, I've got like a nice black frame to this. So I'm just going to pop this one at the back here, and it's just going to give us a nice backdrop to work from. Now I've got some rattan again. This is just a really simple tray from Primark, and I'm just going to place that one there. So I now need to fill something here, and I think I need a 2 to go here ideally. So first up, I do like to include vintage pieces in my shelf styling. So this was actually my granddad's. You can get these in quite a few places at the moment. They've come back in fashion. You can get them on Facebook Marketplace, vintage fairs, and any sort of like second-hand stores. I love it. I love the natural colours, I love the contrast, and it's going to work really well for my neutral colour scheme. So I'm just going to place that one here, and that's going to form sort of an anchor point. And then I want to bring something into it that's a little bit smaller, and it's going to create that bit of varying interest. So I mentioned plants, but I do like real plants as well if I can keep them alive. So this is a really, really cute bonsai tree. It's grown quite a lot since we got it actually, in a nice grey defining pot, and I'm just going to place that one there. So now I'm taking a step back, I'm going to have a look, I'm going to do a bit of curation, and we're going to see if we need anything else. Okay, so I've just done a little bit of rearranging, and I've just added a vertical book here, so we've got a little bit of varying interest and height, and this really cute pear-shaped ornament which was from B&M. I love that. So I'm pretty happy with how everything's looking now, and I'm probably going to come away from this and rearrange it again, and that's the beauty of shelf styling. You're never going to get it right first time, and it's all part of the process and enjoying it. But hopefully what you've learned from this video is to definitely start with your top shelf. You want to add something that's defining. It's going to take up most of the space. You do not need to fill every inch of space on your shelves, okay? You want some nice white space. It's going to create that visual interest and contrast with all your colours, textures and items that you've used. And then when you do go down onto your other shelves, try and think of it as little vignettes. You want to focus on tiny corners before focusing on the rest. Don't worry too much about contrasting colours, because I think you can get away with it when you're doing shelf styling. But just make sure that you're using different textures, different colours, for things that are going to spark interest. And the most important thing to take away from this is to vary interest and height. Which is what I've done with my vases here. I've got stacks of books, I've stacked vertically, and I've got a different range of heights and items here as well. But I do love adding photographs and stuff as like back points, because I could do that on this shelf as well if I want to. There's loads of different things you could do, but it's your shelf to start. Just remember to start with loads more items than you actually need. I've got loads of items around me that I haven't touched, but I might use at a later date. It's going to be so much easier to style. And back in the past, when I had my flat, way before I sort of got into interiors, I would literally buy individual items and just add them to the shelves, and the shelves just never looked full and inviting and visually interesting. And that's because I was trying to work with one item at a time. I know it can be quite expensive to start with, but it's so much easier if you've got a lot of stuff to play with. And like I said, like, I buy a lot of stuff from vintage shops. I've collected stuff over the years, and it just makes it a little bit easier to curate. But do head to a charity shop and try and pick up some individual bits. It's just going to look really good on your shelves, and it's going to give it that unique look. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video. I hope you've got some really great tips for your next shelf styling that you do in your own home. Do let me know if you've got any questions in the comments below, and I'll come straight back to you. But other than that, please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and do subscribe if you want to see more videos, and I will see you very soon in my next video.